Most dads don't realize this, but testosterone often drops when you get your partner pregnant. And for some men, it never fully comes back. And this isn't opinion. There have been actual studies that have measured this. And this is where it gets interesting. That drop in testosterone often starts to happen before your baby is even born. So what happens is that when men transition into fatherhood, their hormones start to shift. Their testosterone comes down and their bonding hormones like oxytocin start to rise. And there was actually a study that followed men both before and after becoming fathers. And this was titled The Longitudinal Evidence That Fatherhood Decreases Testosterone in Human Males. Actual blood work was done, and that was done over time. And they found that those who became partnered dads showed much larger drops in testosterone than men who stayed single. Their wake-up levels of testosterone dropped around 26%, and evening levels dropped around 34% over several years. And the men who were most involved in childcare, they had the biggest drops, as crazy as that sounds. So that tells us that this isn't the body showing a weakness, it's actually an adaptive response. And this isn't just a post-birth thing either, and just because you're having sleepless nights because your baby's waking you up. Another study named Prenatal Testosterone Synchrony in First-Time Parents showed that men can actually start seeing testosterone decline during their partner's pregnancy. And this is where it gets really interesting, is that hormonal shift, it seems to prepare men for bonding and caregiving even before the baby arrives. Even showing that lower testosterone actually aligns with increased caregiving. So if you felt different during pregnancy, if you were more emotional, if you were flatter or less driven, that was not random. But here is where the problem arises. Those studies, they looked at hormone changes, testosterone changes in isolation, and they looked at what happens naturally when good testosterone is assumed as a baseline. They looked at how the body then bounced back after a year, and if we add real life into the mix, real life adds pressure. Real life adds much different stresses, especially when we start to add things like your broken sleep. This alone can suppress testosterone. Your child waking you up multiple times, you trying to shut off with alcohol, the shorter, lighter sleeps, it all adds up. The chronic stress is going to push your cortisol up, and cortisol is going to suppress your testosterone. The lifestyle drifts, things like less training because we're tired and we're busy. The less nutritious food due to all the fatigue piling up from the waking nights, and the more caffeine to actually give you that energy as well. This is all good until the system can't recover. And this is what I see every single day with dads in my clinic. I see guys finding that they're knackered. They're finding they have less drive. They are putting on weight. Then they say they got lower libido. They're suffering from erectile dysfunction. Their moods are rock bottom. They also tend to be waking up more, even when their kids aren't waking them during that nighttime. And this is where dads lie to themselves. They say that this is just dad life, or it's just getting older, and then they brush it off. They try to hide it, but the research doesn't say dads should be broken. The testosterone naturally drops, but nowhere near enough to be as low as I see on a lot of tests. And it drops for evolution, short term, not because stress is so high and not enough for side effects to actually be shown. Testosterone isn't about male ego. It's not just about building muscle. This is about the hormone that will pretty much impact your masculinity. And I'm not saying that you need to have Arnie levels, but you want good, steady levels. This literally matters for your quality of life. It supports confidence, it supports focus, it supports stress tolerance, it supports motivation, it supports emotional resilience. And unfortunately, if we look at the numbers in the Western world, most guys get to 40 and they're already at low levels, with the average 40-year-old having 13.9 nanomoles a litre. Symptoms are actually seen at anything under 15, and let's forget that NHS doctors don't really do anything until it hits sub 8. It's worrying. When testosterone drops too far, men don't just lose libido. They lose edge, they lose patience, they lose their drive. And this is usually when dads say, I don't feel like myself anymore. It's usually when their wives call them the grumpy old man, but it's been happening over time, and now it's so overwhelming to try and come back from it. So they push it to the side until their body actually breaks. And hopefully they can come back from that. Look, a small drop in testosterone when you become a dad, that is normal. We see that. It's evolution. The studies suggest it's part of the actual bonding and protection process, but this is where the line matters. Those same studies show that testosterone can stabilize or rebound later in that first year for most men. That's if their levels were actually normal in the first place. So when levels stay low for years, that's not adaptation anymore. That's literally a system that is under pressure. It's stuck in fight or flight mode and is ready to snap. This is where most men get it wrong. They push harder. They say, right, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do a hard bodybuilding session. I'm going to go and do some high rocks competitions. I'm going to compete in an Ironman event. But the research, it doesn't support that approach. Those approaches add insult to injury and they actually make things worse. Lower testosterone plus high stress plus poor sleep, it does not respond well to this punishment. This then results in more irritability, more wakeless nights, and more frustration. So we then see guys who think that the only option is TRT, and I'm a fan of TRT. But you have to be doing the foundations first. If not, you won't get the results and will still see the need to go through those foundations anyway. The dads who cope best, they aren't doing extremes. They are supporting recovery. They are doing those foundations. They are having good quality nutrition, not having loads of alcohol, not having loads of processed foods. They're getting their protein in, their fiber in, and it is a big, big focus of their actual nutrition basis. They are getting good sleep hygiene. They are sleeping and waking at the same time without waking for the toilet. They are training for both strength and cardio, but enough to recover. We don't want to just look good if you're going to have an asthma attack going up the stairs. And they are getting good supplements based on getting their blood work done. They are also, and this is so important, they are focusing on boundaries with their businesses to be there for their family. This is why guessing doesn't just work. Most men are only tested for total testosterone, but the studies, they measure the patterns over time. The morning levels, evening levels, stress context. And this is where many dads are told they're fine. Many guys are told they're fine, when functionally they're not. We also have free testosterone that most doctors aren't going to check straight away. And this is directly impacted by a thing called sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG. That is in your system and it is impacted by stress and liver function, which is going to bind some of that testosterone and take it around the body. Whether you've got too much or too little, we need to have the right amounts to get the right amount of testosterone around to be able to use it. We also have estrogen and aromatization. That impacts free testosterone. And that also is impacted by stress and body fat levels. But even then, a testosterone panel, it only tells a portion of the picture. We need to look at red blood cells. We need to look at a full iron panel. We need to look at a cholesterol panel. We need to look at your adrenals and how they are or aren't working. It all plays a big part. So yeah, testosterone often drops when you become a dad. That part is normal. Feeling flat, anxious, irritable, and disconnected for years, that is not. Your body isn't broken. You're just in a place where you need a little gentle nudge to get you back. You're under pressure. And pressure can be fixed when you stop guessing and start supporting your actual systems. If it hits you and you want to get your health back to where both you and your kids deserve, drop me